polls. The polls show that religious observance in this country, in America, is going down every year. But the same polls said that religious observance is going up in Israel.
Modernism, liberalism, actually opened the gate to all kinds of ideas. By click with your finger, you can come and read and being impressed by them.
They claim to fight us in the name of all kinds of values that we uphold, when actually what they're doing is rejecting all of those values and rejecting our right to uphold them.
They're not fighting for freedom. They're not fighting against racism, but in fact for racism.
Burning, looting.
We've become a nation who has forgotten God.
I was driving home from Jerusalem one day, back to Shiloh, with my 3-year-old son sitting behind me in the toddler seat. There were terrorists on the right side of the road shooting at my car with AK-47 assault rifles. When the bullets hit, the car went completely dead, and a bullet crashed into my left leg. Blood was flying everywhere. And I turned around to my son, who was sitting behind me, as I said, and I turned around to him and I asked him if he was okay. His eyes were staring straight ahead, wide open. His mouth was wide open. He looked like he was trying to scream or to cry, but no sounds were coming out. I tried to start the ignition. It wasn't starting. The car was dead. The terrorists are still shooting. I see bullets whizzing past my eyes. They had tracer bullets. Then suddenly the car started as if it had never had a problem starting before. I hit the gas. I drove 110 miles an hour to get up to the next community where I hoped I could get an ambulance. I pull up to the gates. 2 paramedics leap out of the ambulance. They run up to the car. One of them unbuckles my son from the baby seat and pulls him out of the car. He cradles him in his arms and he starts shouting. He's also been shot. He's been shot in the head. When my son came home several weeks later from the hospital, from the intensive care unit, my wife and I noticed that there was deep psychological trauma in that boy. He was walking, screaming in the middle of the night, and thank God he was walking again, because he wasn't able to even lift himself up in the hospital. And one day I'm sitting with him about a week later in my living room, and he was sitting in this big toy car that we had on the other side of the living room. And then he turns around and looks up at me and he holds up a doll, one of his sister's dolls, and he said, "This is the Abba, the father. He has a hole in his leg." And then he held up another doll and he said, "This is the little baby. He was shot in the head." Now, I just burst into tears. I couldn't believe that I was hearing this. But it was actually a blessing in disguise, because I started to understand that there is a way to heal trauma in children. My name is David Rubin. I grew up in the United States in a place called New York City, and I moved to Israel 30 years ago. I moved to Shiloh, which is in the heart of what many people call the West Bank, and I also established the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund for the purpose of healing the trauma of terror victim children. I'm thankful to be here every day. I feel privileged every day to walk up and down the same hills where Samuel the prophet walked, where the biblical leaders of Israel lived. It's a tremendous, tremendous honor.
The Jewish people was brought to this country by God. First of all, Abraham was, he got the promise of God to give him this land. His son Isaac and Jacob lived here. After they had to go to Egypt, they came back as a nation after 40 years in the desert, and they settled in the land of Israel, all the Israel tribes. At some point, they built the temple in Jerusalem in the days of David and Solomon. Later, they were expelled by the Assyrians and then by the Babylonians. They came back because they remained loyal to the country. After 70 years of exile, they rebuilt the temple, the second temple, which was destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD. And ever since then, we Jews were in exile for 19 centuries, but we remained loyal to the country, loyal to our religion, loyal to our beliefs, that this country belongs to us, and one day God will bring us back. And he did, under the umbrella of the Zionist organization. In 1948, when at the end of the British Mandate, we declared independence, but our neighbors, the Arabs and the Muslims, do not like us. They don't want us here. They fight against us time and again, and so far they have not yet given up on their dream to wipe us all away from this country and to send us back either to exile or to hell.
Terrorism is a very literal word. It's creating terror. It's designed to create terror, to create fear. It's to cause people to either be killed or wounded, but it also has that psychological element. It's designed to frighten people, to intimidate people, and to cause them to run away.
The attempt to destroy Israel by its neighbors went through three periods. The first period went from 1948 to 1973. 1948, Israel was created in May 14th. 1948, and on that day, Israel was attacked by 6 Arab armies, and they were defeated. They were defeated again in 1956, of course in 1967, and in 1973, Israel was surprised by a massive attack by Syrian and Egyptian forces, enjoying overwhelming superiority in manpower and arms, a total surprise, and that war ended with Israeli troops within Egypt and with Israeli troops within firing distance of Damascus. So that convinced many Arab countries that a conventional threat, a conventional way of destroying the Jewish state was not going to happen. The next stage was the stage of terror. And terror was an attempt not to destroy Israel. The terrorists knew that they couldn't actually destroy Israeli cities, but they could create a situation in which Israelis would pick up and leave. It would make Israel intolerable in terms of a living situation. Yasser Arafat, the head of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, used to actually say this, what I'm saying now. And we defeated it. Israel became the first democratic nation on earth to defeat terror. And defeat terror without carpet bombing the other side. We never did. We never unleashed all of our artillery on any Palestinian city. So it was quite an accomplishment, very big accomplishment. The third stage we're in is in many ways the most complex stage. And that is a stage where our enemies realize they can't destroy us by conventional means, they can't destroy us by terror, but they can destroy us by legal means. And again, Palestinian leaders like Mahmoud Abbas, the president of the Palestinian Authority, has said just what I'm saying now. We can't destroy this country, but we can render it illegitimate. We can deny it the right to defend itself, and ultimately the right to exist as a sovereign Jewish state.
And I'm here to tell you to bring a message from the black side of Washington, D.C. The black side of D.C. that gets oppressed every day by the same police departments that get trained by the Israeli Defense Forces. That's why I can stand here and say I'm not just an ally, I'm your comrade. That's why Palestinian flags were flying in Black Lives Matter protests last year and years before that, because our struggles are connected. We can say it, we can claim it.
Standing in solidarity, African American lawmakers and Black Lives Matter activists express their support for Palestinian rights as they continue their fight for racial justice in the U.S. 1 year since the murder of George Floyd.
Protesters here in D.C. have gathered near the White House throughout the day, and we just learned President Trump was moved to the White House bunker on Friday night during protests out of an abundance of caution.
When I saw what had become known as the George Floyd riots in America, and I saw people demonstrating in the streets, and not just demonstrating, I suddenly noticed it wasn't just people demonstrating another shooting of a black person by a white cop. It wasn't just that. I sensed that it was something much more than that. I sensed that there was something going on that struck me as being particularly analogous to what we in Israel have been through. I saw the rioting in the streets of New York City, for example, and I see bricks on the street corner. I see people throwing bricks through store windows, throwing bricks at government buildings, using Molotov cocktails, which we in Israel have experienced for years. When I saw terrorists, these homegrown terrorists, shall we call them, in the United States, these radical leftists, trying to destroy statues in the heart of Washington, D.C., near the White House, I said something was really frightening here, and I think people have to take notice of what's happening. The analogies were truly frightening. When I moved to Israel back in 1992, I wasn't running from America. I was moving to Israel. I think it's an important point to make. I still identify as an American citizen, even though I'm also obviously an Israeli citizen, and I've sacrificed for Israel, and I live and breathe Israel every single day of my life. But I still have a very strong connection with the United States for the way it was established and the principles on which it was established. And yes, Israel is the original biblical nation, but the United States is a country that was built on many biblical principles, and many of those principles are connected with Israel.
Now, I know there's a lot of news over the weekend, and I'm sure some of you actually did something else besides watch football. What was that game? Army, Navy. For all you Army guys out there, congratulations. I'll give you that one. Hi, I'm David Webb. I'm a big A American. I know it's a catchphrase, but that's really who I am. I'm someone who talks on radio throughout the day, Monday to Friday, does television, writes, but also what I want to do is have other people take their own power and use it. That's really who I am. It's not about just me. It's about others. It's about the community. It's about the country. Antifa started after World War II. Their history is documented prior to that, but anti-fascist, autonomen fascist in Germany, was really a way of the communists countering the Nazi feelings, the leftover from what was there during World War II. They came to America as a way to help take apart the culture, create enemies of each other, this group versus that group. And that was their goal. So now you have Antifa with its background into Black Lives Matter, a Marxist-founded group that took concerns of blacks, rightfully or wrongfully, and put them into a mold, and that became their truth. So they were told, this is your truth no matter what. You're all a monolithic block if you're black in America, and this is the only way to think, which is why many people will attack me and say, you know, you're not black enough, or you're an Uncle Tom, or you're, and I'm sitting there going, I've been black my whole life, it's not gonna change.
This is a Fox News alert. Although Ferguson leaders urge residents to stay home after dark tonight, protesters continue at this very hour. Now we sent our friend David Webb, along with our team of producers, to the streets of Ferguson to talk to protesters. Let's take a look.
What happens if it turns out the officer wasn't guilty?
I'm not sure. I think it pretty much speaks for itself. I believe that he was guilty.
Black Lives Matter really had national prominence in Ferguson, Missouri, after Michael Brown was shot by a police officer while charging that police officer. I was there. I watched the marches, the riots, the burning, the looting. I stood there with my camera crews and we saw this all play out. Michael Brown wasn't a victim. He was a wannabe gangbanger that robbed Ferguson Market and Liquors as a strong-arm robbery as part of his initiation. Then they burned the businesses. They leave them there, and the businesses are still hurting. I've gone back in the years since.
And welcome back to this audience edition of Hannity. Now, in the wake of the chaos in Ferguson last week, we sent our team of producers, along with Fox News contributor David Webb, to survey the destruction and, in particular, the damage done to dozens of small businesses in the city of Ferguson. Take a look.
We've been service the community. It's very good business. We have a lot of thing in the business, meat and
it's a meat market,
meat
what
market.
We call butcher shop.
Butcher shop, you know, with everything. You know, we have grocery and a lot of stuff.
This man paid a price that I can't even calculate. Muhammad was looted, as he said in this video, twice. It was burned out the second time. I walked through it. Water was still dripping from the ceiling where the firefighters had obviously put out the fire. This is the deadly, at times, and dangerous and destructive nature of this lie.
Many young people in America have been taught to hate the United States. They've been taught that the United States is evil, irredeemably evil from our inception, and they're being taught right now that all institutions in America are systemically racist, and therefore all institutions in America must be torn down. That's the Marxist view of the United States. Our original heritage, our truthful heritage, our real history that is secured by primary source documents from our founders going all the way through our history, they now are rejected. They now have been cast down. And because of that, now young people in America, we have a few generations now who have no idea who we are, what our history is, and certainly they're unwilling to see the greatness that was America because they assume that they're being taught lies.
It's not surprising that, for instance, in the Black Lives Matter charter, not only do they reject the right of the United States to exist as presently constituted and demand a complete reorganization of American society along cultural Marxist lines that are explicitly racist, but they also have a special section on the Jewish state and its illegitimacy and the need for it to be destroyed and replaced by a Palestinian Arab state.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
It's been hard in America. It's been tough, feeling sad. It's been hard in America. I never thought it'd get so bad. I wish that I had a big jet plane, fly the tears away. Maybe I'd find a river so wide and drift away all of the pain. But it seems there's more to do. There's more to love we've yet to find. Oh yeah, it's true, we may stumble through, but all we have is precious time.
Radicals by any name take away freedom under the guise of offering freedom for others. You can't tear down America for the goal of more democracy and freedom if you're trying to destroy what makes it a good nation and a constitutional republic. Whatever they do and use, ask yourself the question, what happens if they win? It's that simple a question. On one side, you get more freedom. On the other side, you get less, if not no freedom. And those are your two choices. Freedom has risks, it has more rewards. Less freedom, well, there's no risk or reward, you simply don't have the choice.
One of the foundations of the United States of America was the American family, was the traditional family. And one of the main goals of these left-wing movements in America is to undo the traditional American family, to undo the basics of a family, of a father and a mother and children, to undo the principles of hard work. Now, if you look at the Jewish immigrants in America, and if you also look at Israel today, what you see is hard work. Hard work and education. That element of hard work that has made Israel the small but great country that it is, that element of the family, and the Sabbath and that we sit together as a family 24 hours of the day, and we turn off the computers and we turn off the televisions and we turn off the cell phones, and we just sit with each other and we discuss basic principles of life and things that we can learn from. That's a principle that has been lost in America. And sure, there are some pockets in America that maintain it, but it's a principle that is rapidly being lost, that the left-wing radicals are trying to undo intentionally and comprehensively.
America can and should learn from Israel how people stick to their religion, stick to their identity, stick to their national identity, and being loyal to whatever their forefathers believed in. It is not easy because the world is changing rapidly. Modernism, liberalism actually opened the gate to all kinds of ideas which, by click with your finger, you can come and read and being impressed by them. Israel, so far, is a state which keeps its identity, social identity, national identity, and most important, religious identity.
The Pew polls, the polls show that religious observance in this country, in America, is going down every year. But the same polls said that religious observance is going up in Israel every year. Israel is more observant every year. And Israel is a deeply family-oriented society. At a time when the overwhelming majority of Western industrialized countries have imploding birth rates. Israel has a soaring birth rate. And the average Israeli family, including my family, has 3-5 kids, and it's very family oriented. I think Israel offers a number of answers to the West. One is that you can reconcile modernity with tradition.
So if we're going to save America, see what the enemy is in its multiple forms, and then focus on foundations, Judeo-Christian values. Some of my friends would say Hellenic values, Western values. Moral foundation doesn't mean going to church or temple or the mosque every day and, live in the public view. It means that when you're alone or you're with friends or family, you still have that foundation in your life, in your business, in your work. And that is what's really needed. I have no preconceived notions that we're not up against deliberate attempts to tear the country apart. And we need fighters.
Change happens at the grassroots. You will only get control, once again, of your families and your educational system that you pay for with your taxes when you start to address it at the grassroots level. In Israel, the traditional family and children are valued. My dream for Israel and America is that Israel will fulfill its mission as a light unto the nations, and that the United States of America will return to its roots of God, family, and hard work, and will reconnect with Israel and stand with Israel as we fulfill our mission.
If America is going to rebuild its heritage, it is going to have to stand firmly with Israel. After David Rubin and his young son were wounded in the terror attack that you heard about in this film, David realized that his son was only one of thousands of children in Israel who are suffering physically and psychologically from terror attacks and desperately needed a way to heal. This led him to establish the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund to provide victimized children with the life-saving therapies they urgently needed to heal from their trauma. The horrific massacre on October 7th, 2023 further emphasized for the entire world the need to focus on the many thousands of terror victim children, including those from the massacre that Shiloh Israel Children's Fund is helping. Traumatized children are different from adults. They can't just sit in a room with their therapist and talk through their experiences. Shiloh Israel Children's Fund provides unique programs to help children to work through their trauma in ways that succeed for them. Through art therapy, drama therapy, small animal therapy, horseback therapy, horticulture, sports, multisensory safe room therapy, whole family therapy, and more. Every child responds to trauma differently, so they tailor these life-changing therapies to each and every child's individual needs. The success that Shiloh Israel Children's Fund has had with these children is incredible and inspiring. It's certainly one of Israel's best responses to the radicals who are trying to destroy Israel, America, and Judeo-Christian civilization. By supporting the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund, you will be helping thousands of traumatized children in Israel to contend with their trauma, find true healing, and eventually move forward to live happy, healthy, productive lives. Visit israelchildren.org or click the link down in the description below to find out how you can save the life of a terror-stricken child in Israel today.
Well, something happens in my mind, and every time I try